Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's Ask the Expert session. And before we get started, let's just quickly check that first you can hear me well and also that you can see my screen. If something doesn't seem to work properly, then please do let me know by raising your hand, or alternatively, you can use the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. So let's get started. Today's session is dedicated to setting up your workspace, where I'm mainly going to focus on building out your folder structure, what use cases are commonly used, and best practices that we gathered across our favorite customers who are using WRIKE. And since this session is meant to be interactive, please connect your mic and also raise your hand whenever you would like to share your case. You have a specific question that you would like to discuss live, so then please do so, and I'll be happy to unmute you so we could have a live interaction. So let's move on. First, my name is Daria. I'm WRIKE Product Guru, and also on top of that, I'm a business coach. And for almost 2 years, I've been with WRIKE, but initially I joined as a member of the support team. That means that I've been answering all sorts of questions, starting from very technical ones, ending up having real consulting sessions, and now doing my best to onboard our teams that start using WRIKE to make sure that they're implementing it in the most successful way in a customer success manager role. So what you will learn today, since this session is very dedicated to the folder structure, then first I will touch upon the essential framework of WRIKE, what it is. Most probably you have heard of it before. What are the best practices of building out the folder structure, and how to customize access to your folders. So, the essential framework of WRIKE. Why is it important to remember and to actually keep that in mind? Because you can basically bring WRIKE to the idea of 3 main units. The first is a folder that is going to be your key container. This is your main building block of how you're going to build out your structure in WRIKE. This is your key organizer. It could be your private organizer, or perhaps you would like to use it for your entire team. And color code would provide you with a better visibility, and whenever you would like to use folder as a tag. Next comes a project. Project is a type of a folder that you can easily recognize by this clipboard icon right next to it. And project allows you to collect only relevant tasks, to set start and finish date for the project, to set owner or multiple owners, to select the status. And as a rule of thumb, try to keep only relevant tasks per a project. And where a project is usually created, it is usually created on a folder level. So you use folder as your main container, as your main category, while a project is already a more specific item that you actually start actively working on. And finally, a task. A task is the main working unit in WRIKE. That's how you keep a track of changes, that's how you get your things done, and that's how you always know who is in charge by keeping assignees. And remember, a task is an actionable item. This is something you intend to complete sooner or later, so one task means one action. If you have any question with regards to the essential framework of WRIKE, then please let me know by writing in the question box or also raising your hand. So, quickly about the best practices. The first is, of course, client-based, and most commonly it is used whenever you're working on specific projects that you need to categorize by clients or by some other criteria that you have internally. So, here you can see that the folder enterprise clients is on a higher level than a subcategory named Client 1, meaning subfolder, was created, and then there are 2 projects, Project A and Project B. Then another subfolder per Client 2, another subfolder for Client 3, then another category for small business clients, and then the same logic is applied. Next, project-based. The logic is pretty much identical. You think of a larger category that you need to create in your workspace. Then, if there are any additional subcategories, then create subfolders. And then, once you are ready to start creating projects and populate them with tasks, then go ahead and add them on a relevant category. And finally, department-based. Department-based usually is the most populated folder tree. Why? Because it is more operational. Once you start creating teams, then you need to understand what type of a workflow this particular team requires and how you're going to start creating or populating those categories, buckets with tasks. But I will show you that in my demo account, so don't worry. And a little bit of how the sharing in WRIKE works. Remember that sharing in WRIKE means access and visibility. So it works very simple. It works top down. So whenever you understand what level you wish to share with your team or with a specific team member, then you must remember that this level, all the levels above, they must be unshared. So let's take a look at these two screenshots. The very first one is admin view. Admin has created the entire company structure and split them onto subfolders. And there is a new team member on the marketing team, and we see there is a subfolder named marketing. What we did, company level remains unshared with this new user, but instead we went to the marketing folder and we shared it only with this user. So as a result, this user has only access to the marketing folder and to the entire content that resides in this location. So of course, after we are taking a closer look in my demo account, you will understand how this works. And before we finally move on to the demo account, task or subtask. Here, I would like to drive your attention to the fact that actually, very often, our users, they're mistaking tasks and subtasks, and they use task as a category. That is rather a very common mistake. Why? Because, as I mentioned before, task is an actionable unit. This is not a category. This is something that you must mark as completed. So this is your main working unit. You are always assigning a task to a specific individual and you change statuses appropriately. While a subtask, it helps you to segment your work. So if you have a task for the entire week, let's say you need to write a chapter for the book, and then you have a few subtasks to segment your main parent task. For example, writing a draft, then polishing it, and then finally submitting it to the editor. Then subtasks would play the perfect role here. And also, if you need or require an additional assignee, let's say somebody who needs to review your work, then it's better to create a subtask. And if you have multiple phases, just as I demonstrated in the example, use the subtask. If you require to use a specific category, then use a folder instead, or a subfolder. So if you have any questions so far, then please let me know. You already should learn how to do that. So either raise your hand or use the question box. And also, I would like to run a very quick poll. How are you planning to use WRIKE at your company? This would give me a slightly better idea of what kind of teams I'm dealing here with today. So please take a second and answer the question. I will be super happy to learn what teams we have here today. So it would help me to customize the session slightly better. Okay, so I see a few additional team members, well, attendees who joined. Okay, thanks a lot for voting. So, who are the winners? Within one team department, and the second most common option is to collaborate with several teams and departments. Excellent. So I will do my best to show you actually the both type of works and how you could apply it. So let's take a look at my left-hand panel. This is a folder tree. And since I'm the admin in the account, I decided to take care and build out the entire company structure. So, depending on the type of the work in your organization, it could be project-oriented, right? Or it could be operational. So, let's touch upon the first example, clients. This is extremely popular folder structure, and basically it meets two main goals and requirements. In some teams, whenever they have project managers, they have some sensitive information on clients that they would like to keep private. And the main concern is how to build out the folder structure in a way that each individual has their own spot, their own location, where they keep the track of all clients they're dealing with, and to keep some certain privacy. So they only focus on their own clients. So this is a case. We create the top bucket that we are calling clients. And as you can see, I have absolutely 0 tasks on this level because this is a category. I don't use it for any tasks at all. Then I have created a subfolder that I named by project manager. So here it is extremely convenient for me as a manager to have a higher access and check on each project manager what type of clients they have. Perhaps they require a new one or they're super overloaded, so I could manage their load balance. And then under the by project manager folder, I have created 3 additional folders for each project manager that I have on my team: Anne, Bill, and Bob. And speaking of sharing now, let's take a look at by project manager. And on my right panel, this is a folder statistics that you always see on your right hand. And I see that this folder is shared with myself and with my manager, Matt. We inherited this sharing because I cannot unshare subfolder if parent folder is shared. And by this, it means that we are shared on the company structure. And I immediately can remove myself or Matt. And once I go to by project manager, I am no longer able to remove none of us. Next, Anne. Once I hovered and clicked on this folder, we see that it is individually shared with Anne. So she doesn't have access to by project manager, nor she has access to clients folder, nor to the company structure. So whenever she logs into her WRIKE account, this is the folder she's going to see and her client that she currently works with, Tesla. This is a category that we named after the client, and she now has Tesla project. And once I click on the Tesla project, I also see this clipboard icon that appears right next to it. And by default, once you click on a project view will open up on your right hand. We see that Anne, she is an owner of this project, that it has started on the 16th of October, and actually it's supposed already to be over on 31st of October. And some additional custom fields that were enabled on this level. So that's one of the examples. Bill's folder works absolutely the same way. It is only shared with Bill, as we can see from the folder stats. He has currently Starbucks and he has 2 ongoing projects. And Bob. So that's the first type. Then number 1 folder by client. Also, why am I using digits? In WRIKE, sorting of folders happens alphanumerically. So whenever you require a specific sorting of your folders, you are not able to drag and drop them in a sequence that you prefer. So instead, either stick to alphabet, or you can also stick to digits, or you can invent even a smarter naming convention if you like, and then go ahead and then your folders would be sorted appropriately. So the by the client folder. This is already a folder that we work together with the entire team. So we can see that this folder is shared with the executive team because we are working with our top clients. And the same logics. Per each main category, we have a dedicated subfolder that is named after a client. Barclay, Comcast, Deloitte, etc. So the list goes on. Once I go and drill deeper into the Barclay folder, and also I can see that there are absolutely no tasks. I keep it clean because I only need to keep tasks on a relevant project, or if it's a bucket folder, then I would need to put it onto the appropriate level. So here in Barclays, we see that our team has mainly 3 workflows: digital, print, and TV and radio. Once I go to digital, I see there are no tasks still, but once I expand it, there are 2 ongoing projects: Workplace Effectiveness Post and YouTube Motivational Video. And once I go to this project, we see a list of tasks that currently Dom is working on. So that's another type. What is the key advantage of having such a folder structure? First, if you have additional team members, and for example, by client is shared with a specific team, but you need to work with other departments as well. Let's say that this is already an existing client, but there are some new projects that our sales team, account managers, are selling to Barclays, and they want to be aware of what is actually happening right now with this client. All you can do is go to the Barclay level, expand the folder information panel, and to share it with a specific team if needed. It could be the sales team. If I start in typing it, I have a user group sales. It's one of the options. Or let's say you want to share it with somebody with just one account manager. And let's say account manager Lawrence, he is taking care of Barclays, so he can always stay on top of all the ongoing work because client might wonder what's happening with my other projects that are actually right now you're working on. So they have a discussion within a single call. This is why I will share this particular folder, Barclays, with necessary individuals. All right. And then, of course, there are some additional folder structures, some folders that I have, clients, contract requests, partners, just to give you an overall idea of how it could look like. Next is another very commonly used departments. So this is going to be already more complex simply because there are more workflows and more data that we are keeping on this level. So in departments, again, this is shared only with myself and with Matt because we don't want teams to be confused and to see information they do not supposed to see. So let's take a look. Once I go to the IT folder, we see that this level folder is shared with an IT team. Once I expand it, we see their main workflow. They have their inbox where they get all the incoming requests, as you can see, IT help desk tickets that are landing from the request forms from the green button. They have their backlog, they have their application and data management folder, and from there we can see all their ongoing projects. They have cat deployment, they have MongoDB security projects. So this is their workflow and projects they're currently work on. And also, and of course, most of the teams nowadays, they're working using sprints. In this case, you can also bid out the entire folder structure using sprints. So each folder would correspond to the current sprint that you have. You expand it, then of course we see what currently is being worked on during the sprint. And once it is outdated, you can put it into the Zit archive folder. So what is Zit archive? At the bottom you can see I have a dedicated location, Zit archive, and of course the naming of Zit archive is simply because I want it to reside at the bottom of my list. This is why I stick to this naming convention. And here we can see that I'm replicating my existing folder structure. Why? Because then it is much easier for my team, and of course I would share Zit archive either with the entire team or each A archive folder, A analytics, A customer success, A IT would be shared appropriately with each of the team members. They can easily archive their items into their location. So every time they need to retrieve it back, they can easily drag and drop it into an appropriate location back, and that means that they always will have their data in a single location instead of going and putting it into recycle bin. So this is an excellent idea, and I can tell that a lot of teams that are using this logics and this nice tip to work with archiving. So that's one of the ways to go. And here, the marketing. Since marketing is also an extremely common, we have a lot of marketing teams that are using WRIKE, so of course this is extremely popular. So marketing team, as you can see on my right statistics panel, we see it is shared, of course, with the marketing team, right? And they have their own request inbox, or they also get some requests from email integration. They have their main workflow, creative, that we see the list of projects. So you get the idea. A folder is used as a main criteria, as a main bucket, so it's easier to categorize your work and later on to prioritize it. And then you already populate your specific category with projects that are relevant specifically for this folder. Next, events. They have additional categories, customer dinners, and we can see that there is a Silicon Valley dinner. There are executive roundtables that currently we're working on, then some marketing, Marcom, and all the existing projects that we have. So this way, you can build out a nice structure. And speaking of sharing, whenever you want to cooperate with other teams, or you want somebody else outside of your folder tree to work on something that you would like to, there are multiple ways to go. You can also, for example, I showed in Barclay that I could share that particular folder, right? And for example, let me go to the banner ads requests. And let's say that right now we got a request from Softcat. And I know that our project managers, they're currently working with Softcat. And all I can do, I can simply add it to an additional folder. So let me check if among clients I have Softcat. Okay, I do not. Well, I can easily create it. I will simply add a new folder that I will call Softcat. Create. And now Softcat client will be created here. So I will go to my banner ads request back. I will go to the Softcat Q2 discount campaign. And since currently this task is only visible to Bill, marketing team, myself, and Matt, I want it also to reside in Softcat. So all the execs would be able to see it if needed. So all I need to do is to simply tag it with Softcat folder. And we see there is already a suggestion to path to this folder. And now this means that anyone who is shared on a Softcat folder will immediately have access to this task. So now I go to Softcat and I see that this task is residing here. What does it mean? It means that it doesn't copy the task. It still exists in a single copy, but it multiplies across multiple locations. So now it exists on the Softcat level and banner ads request. As soon as I go to this particular task and remove this tag, it will disappear, and also it will unshare with those who were shared on a Softcat. And once exec team would go to the Softcat, they will no longer see this task and they will no longer have access to it. So this is called cross-tagging and cross-sharing in WRIKE. You can use this logic and apply it to anything. It could even exist on a folder level. So let's say you want banner ads request to actually exist also in the by client folder. You can do that the same thing to the entire folder. Simply click on the folder info panel, click on the plus, and tag it with an additional location. So once I start searching for by client, now this folder will exist in 2 locations. And it means that now it is also shared with an executive team. As simple as it is. So this way, you can have something mutually shared across departments, and that means that banner ads request, this is the only folder that is accessed by those who are shared on by client folder. And they will not have access to anything that resides in creative or even in the marketing team. So applying this logics, you can control who you wish to grant access to what type of items in WRIKE, to what type of folders, projects, and even a task, as I showed on a single task example. So if you have any questions about sharing, because I know sharing is a very complex item, well, for some it is very easy to understand, for some it is more complex because there are processes inside of a team that are more complex. So feel free to raise your hand to unmute yourself, which I will do for you, or alternatively to use the question box that we have in Go to Webinar Control Panel. So, and while you are still thinking, I would like to share a few best practices of some assistant folders that you might want to have. So what this could be. Whenever we are talking about departments, it's also extremely important to keep a track of vacations, right? So somebody on your team could take control of it, and you can create a request form, which is accessible. This functionality is available on business and enterprise accounts. And each team member are going to submit requests for their vacation, and they can be landing into the vacation folder. So each team has access to it, and they always know who is going on a vacation and when. So it will be mapped with the title of the task. Next, if you're pretty new to WRIKE and you're planning to onboard your team, then most likely Knowledgebase Folder would be very helpful to you. How come? First of all, Knowledgebase, you can also customize the sharing. So for example, whenever you have a new team member joining your WRIKE account, first of all, share only this folder, Knowledgebase, so they don't get overwhelmed with the entire structure that you're planning to share in the future. What Knowledgebase could consist of? First, it could be company info, where you could keep all the policies, all the handbooks, something extremely useful for your new team members to learn about your company and internal processes. Next, company-wide meetings, in case you are practicing those. So you can run meetings using WRIKE, and instead it would create a My Meetings folder for you. Or you can have your own location for meetings where you would keep all the agendas. So that means that in case somebody was off and they would like to catch up with the agenda of the past meeting, keep them all in one place. And finally, WRIKE tips. WRIKE tips is something that, of course, would be more customized by you, where first you could create some onboarding tips, or where you'd list our webinars of onboarding for new users, namely, where you could keep also a fantastic file, how to get it right. I'm talking about this file more during the webinars of onboarding for new users. Next, product. In product, you could stick to some first step functionality that you want users to use. Keep the description. For example, you want them to learn how to use attachments and where to put those attachments. Perhaps you would like to create an additional folder for documents, and for each task, each document would be locating in a single task. So put the description from our help center, give some links so your users would easily understand how to use it. If you want them to create a task, create some certain rules of where to create those tasks, etc., etc. Or how to use calendar in order to mark their vacation, or how to use request forms in order to let other team members know that they're planning a vacation. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to share with you today. I'm open to any questions that you might have, so please go ahead. Use any options that you prefer, either by raising your hand or writing me in the question box, and I'll be happy to answer those. And of course, I highly advise to check our other Ask the Expert sessions. In total, we have 8 of them, and of course, if you pass all of them, you will be pretty advanced in using WRIKE, so I highly encourage you to register for those. And in case you happen to have any questions later on after the session is over, feel free to go to our help center. We have a fantastic support team that is available 24/7, so feel free to contact them either by phone or having a live chat from the help center, or even submitting a request. So from here, I advise you to go to community, because in community, our WRIKE users are actively sharing their best practices. So for example, you would like to check folder structure, and once I hit search, I can choose where I would like to see the results, in Knowledgebase or community. So let's check community. And here we have a post on best practices, where our black belt user is sharing his idea. Or if you find any other useful post, seeing folder structure without sharing folder, create folder structures from templates with prefixes, etc. So community is a great place to go, and you can also search in different categories. And of course, directly from here, you can open a live chat and to talk to our support team. So, also, in case you would like to get a recording of the session, feel free to let me know in the question box, writing your email address, so I could send you the link of the session. And once you have time, you can always watch it again, and maybe to discover something new that you might perhaps missed live. So thank you very much for attending this session today. I hope to see you on our other Ask the Expert sessions. Feel free to come prepared with screenshots, with questions, anything. Some users sometimes are actively using this opportunity. And I wish you a great rest of the week. And yes, if you would like to get a recording, then please let me know in the question box. So thank you very much, and I wish you a nice week ahead. Bye!